Welcome to episode 7 of Design Build Decoded. My name is Bill Stasinski. I'm an architect with Studio 21 Architects. And the most important things that people will ask me in the early stages of planning a design for a home is how long will it take and how much will it cost? So in this episode, we're going to focus on the budget. The problem is you don't know how much a custom home will cost before it's designed. In fact, it's almost impossible. A custom home doesn't have a sticker like a car in a car dealership. So we really don't know enough about the details of a custom home. But more importantly, we need to eliminate expectations by using at least a square footage number initially. In the Chicago area, 2024, that number can be somewhere around $300 to $400 a square foot for a nicely appointed house. And if you're thinking you can do it for $200 a square foot, right there is a total disconnect. It just can't happen. So the next step in the budget process is to determine how much you can afford or want to spend on your new home. And usually that's limited on the income level of our client, but sometimes there's equity involved that can increase that number. But what's most important is initially many of our potential clients don't want to share that budget number. They're afraid that if we know that number, we'll spend every penny they have. Well, you know what? Just get over it, because we really need to know what that's all about in order to really service you properly. This is a team effort, and once you have that attitude, we can really attack the budget properly. So there's some various stages in the budget process, and like I mentioned before, the earliest part is a square footage based number. We're taking an educated guess of what something will cost based on the style of the house, or there's just so many factors. But then once the design evolves, that's when we can really start zeroing in on the true cost of construction. So initially we start plugging numbers into a spreadsheet based on previous projects or educated assumptions, but then what we really want to do is fill out a spreadsheet of costs. So let me share this on the screen here for you of what that looks like and what I'm going to try to explain to you here. Okay, so here we have a construction budget. This is for a house that we're working on in 2024 pricing. And what we've done is we've sorted this by the most expensive items down to the least expensive items. And you'll see on top in this particular case, exterior masonry. There's a lot of stone on this house, so it impacts that budget. Second most expensive item is the cabinetry. There's a lot of cabinetry, a lot of expensive cabinetry. Then we have framing lumber, windows, landscaping, rough carpentry. So the important thing here is there are some of these items, as you look through this list, some of them you have control over based on your selections. Others that are going to be there based on the size of the home or the design of the home. For instance, rough carpentry, you really don't have a lot of impact at this point as to how that number works out, whereas you can still control the cabinetry numbers and even the masonry numbers and such. But as you go through this list, there's various items such as the appliances. Appliances are something that we like people to make a selection on early on. These are numbers that you can plug into the budget very early, and we start creating a realistic budget that works for the entire construction of the house. So as I scroll down here, you'll see that the numbers are getting smaller, but items like the HVAC, you have some control over that, but you still have to heat and cool the house, but there are always going to be some options that you'll be asked to make some decisions about. Plumbing fixtures, that's a number that certainly you're going to make your selections, and that'll have a big impact on cost. So as we go down the list, and I don't want to go through every line item, but as you go down the list, you'll see that there's some items such as the bathroom hardware allowance. That's a very insignificant cost item on this list. So, we don't want to over concentrate on those items. Really, the bigger items and the selection items are important in that budget. Then we get down to where we get to a subtotal of the construction cost, in this case $1.5 million. We have the next item is a contingency line item, and the contingency is very important to have, especially early on in the stage of construction, because that is something that is there for the unknowns. There's certain items that can come up either because you decide to select more important items or more expensive items, or I'll give you an example. In my case, we were submitting for the building permit, and I thought I had it all figured out based on everything that was on the website. But then I didn't realize, and it was hidden in there, that there are some impact fees that we also had to pay. And usually impact fees for a subdivision are paid up front by the developer, but in this case, there were some impact fees that were paid by the developer, but others are paid when the building is actually permitted. And in my case, it added over $5,000 of building permit fees. Okay, so the next line item is the design and construction management fee, and that obviously looks like a pretty big number. What that includes in our case is both the architectural design, the construction management portion of it, all the overhead fees that are associated with construction, and it's all wrapped into one number, which is a percentage of the construction cost. So that's something that people will have a very good understanding when we go into a contract that this is how our fee is established, and it's openly transparent. But it is based on, in our case, a percentage of construction costs, but we're very open and transparent with all the costs that are associated with the project. Okay, so it's important then to understand some of the other costs associated with the design of a home, which aren't included necessarily in this spreadsheet. And a lot of those can be reimbursed during a construction loan, but here's some of the items that you need to think about. Architectural fees, engineering fees, soil borings, building permit fees, let's see what else. Builder's risk insurance. Builder's risk insurance is the insurance that you take out as a homeowner that protects the property if something were to happen to it during construction. After that, there's also utilities during construction that you will probably be liable for, as well as any of the construction loan financing. So those are a lot of those items that can be defined a little bit even by us to help the clients out. But there's other costs associated with the total project that people tend to forget about. And some of those are things like window treatments, moving expenses, let's see what else, the furniture, extensive landscaping, and mortgage payments on your existing house that you may have to have on the market for 3 or 4 months. So those are things that you really need to think about in the overall budget, and knowing that you plan for all of these contingencies when you're designing a house. Okay, so this should give you an overview of the whole budgetary process, and I think it's important that you really understand that total cost of construction, not just what it costs to build a home. And other than that, I want to thank you for watching this episode, and join us next time for Design Build Decoded, when we'll be at the Sierra Pacific window showroom, where we'll talk about various window options. We're done.